All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Without further ado, I'll introduce Stu Green. Stu, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here. All right, yeah, I'll just kick off. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Stu, and I live in Jacksonville. I'm from originally from England. Been here now like 12 years, and I've been building software since, well, gosh, I want to say 2010, something like that, a long time. I have two products that I built, two SaaS companies. One in 2011, sold it in 2015, and then I built another one after that, like 2016, sold that in like 2018, 2019. Both those products got to around 25K MRR. So they were significant, but yeah, not unicorns or anything like that. So built those two SaaS companies, took a bit of a hiatus from tech, and now I'm back in tech again, specifically AI, of course. And yeah, I've been vibe coding for, let's say, a year. I mean, basically, it was November. Let's say it's like November 2024 when I got into this stuff, and I used Bolt. Bolt is still around, but I think it kind of got taken over by like Lovable. And but yeah, I used Bolt, and I remember thinking I was driving to my current job at the time, and driving in the car. I was like, my God, I spent like the night. I was up really late, just messing around with Bolt, and creating stuff. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, this is going to change the world. I remember thinking that, and it has, right? It's changed the world. It's insane what's happened, as you guys know. So I guess I wanted to set a little disclaimer at the beginning of this talk. I want to call this like a workshop, because this is more like a discussion and a conversation than it is like me lecturing or trying to teach or anything like that. Because I think the reality is that no one really knows that much about vibe coding or the space we're in, unless you're like you work for OpenAI since 2018 or something like that. Or you're one of the founders of Anthropic. Most of us are kind of just figuring this out right now, and I'm happy to be in that boat. I love figuring stuff out. I'm glad that we're all kind of figuring out together. So anyone that claims to be an expert, I mean, really, I don't know if that's true. So yeah, my background is product design and product building, as I just explained. So my angle is always going to be from a UX sort of design perspective. I'm full stack. I can do development. I can do back end. I can do front end, but I'm definitely more about the design experience first. So again, that was just another just disclaimer in case you got. I'm sure there's more experienced and clever programmers out there than me. So this is a discussion, and hopefully at the end we'll sort of do some Q&A, and we'll talk about maybe have some more of a discussion. But yeah, if you guys don't know anything about vibe coding at all, if you're coming to this like, what the hell is vibe coding? The phrase was coined in 2025 by Andre Karpathy, and basically that was when he termed the phrase. And I think he's basically saying that it's a phrase that just it's kind of like you're letting the AI just run with it, right? You're just sort of saying, okay, I want to build. You're saying a prompt, and then the AI is just going to go ahead and code. So it's kind of like that's really what it was. And then after that, these agentic tools came out, like Lovable and Replit, and they got better and better and better, as you know. And then instead of it just being like a hey, code a website, code a web page, it was kind of like you had the back and forth and agents and the sub agents, and now, as you know, you can build full applications with front end, back end, everything. So it's crazy, and AI is doing all that code. Um, so so yeah, agents, as you know, are doing a lot of the work now. You've got tools like Lovable, Replit, and they promise to basically do all these things for us. They basically will promise the moon, and I think a lot of us know that really people that have been doing this for 20 years know that really that's just not not really the thing. So I actually put some slides together. I'm trying to follow them, and I'm going off piste, but this app actually that you're looking at right here is I actually vibe coded. Um, so yeah, let me just buzz through some of these. Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about the AI agents. The problem with vibe coding, yeah, it's getting a lot of traction in the media. As you guys know, everyone's coined the phrase. Everyone has coined the phrase now. There's even jobs available now on job boards called vibe coders, which is crazy. I saw that the other day. Was actually, I think that was a Microsoft job posting for a vibe coder. So it's crazy. But like, as you guys know, if you've been doing this for a few years, I think a lot of us are kind of like a little bit annoyed by the phrase because we're saying, oh, hang on, we've been doing this for so long. And then there's people coming in and saying they're vibe coders. It's kind of diluting and making all the work we've put in, people that have gone to school for years and years and years, people that have had experience doing this stuff for decades. We're kind of now being put to one side, and these kids coming in at 20 years old and saying, "Oh, I can build a whole product for you." As a vibe coder, it's kind of getting annoying, and we're all kind of tired of the phrase. So, like, really, the topic. That's why I said the topic is the death of vibe coding. But really, as we all know, this phrase is going to be around, especially as now the media is adopting it. It's going to be a phrase that is around, unfortunately, for a while for this year. But I think what I want us to try and do, the purpose of this talk is to try and just look at what it means to be a vibe coder and actually bringing back to the forefront our skills, our abilities, our experience. Um, so yeah, the promise of vibe coding is perceived high speed, promises low cost, minimal human oversight. That, by the way, is a whole topic in itself. And I won't go into that right now, but like the whole cost thing, everyone's like, oh, it's cheap. It's only cheap because these companies are letting us do all this stuff, and they're very well funded. They've got tons of runway, and people are just pouring money into them. But actually, the cost, as you guys probably know, is a lot. And if anyone has actually used Cursor and they haven't used it, and they've done a per token basis, your bills get rack up pretty quickly, as some of you guys might know. But anyway, no, that's a side talk. Um, and then when you have experienced developers, we have lots of architectural diagrams, we have lots of back end planning, we have all sorts of things that we do, foundational stuff. And we're what we're offering is way more than what is being promised by vibe coding. So let me just go to the next slide here. So yeah, as you guys know, it's really annoying when someone comes in and your boss comes over to you and says, "Oh, I just vibe coded what you've been working on over the last 5 years. Check this out." So I had Gemini create this image. It's kind of fun, but uh, the thing that I kind of want to think, the thing that I focus on is the fact that AI never really, it never, so yeah, vibe coding never really gives you what you envision in your mind because it can't read your mind. What it does is it hallucinates. So, like, you might say, yeah, in this prompt here, you might say, create a simple e-commerce website to hang my crafts. It's going to go ahead and code what it thinks is a simple e-commerce website. But the problem is that because it's lacking so much of that, so much information in that prompt, it's lacking. It's going to hallucinate. It's going to come up with a load of different random stuff. Um, the only other alternative to that is you give it a huge prompt, massive long prompt. You specify things very clearly what you want, and then because it's trained on, it doesn't quite get what you want. Because it's trained on building applications its own way. It's going to try and build your product or your application in its way, and it's kind of like going to rub against the requirements you're giving it. So what I'm saying is, it never really gives you what you want, really. Um, so so that's kind of the problem with vibe coding. So what do you do in that situation? Um, these slides are actually throwing me off. um, yeah. So what you do in this situation is you basically have a hybrid. That's my approach to all of this. Um, I'm going to actually show you some examples of how user experience how user experience isn't really done very well in vibe coding. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that real quick. Um, so here we go. Here's a good example. So humans versus AI. So in a project I was doing for a client recently, um, I built out well, first of all, we built a really good foundation. We built a really solid backend, and then on top of that, I built some UI. And I used AI, but the the what I built for him was lacking a certain dashboards, if you like, reports. So he basically was like, okay, I, he recorded a Zoom call and said, this is what we have currently. This is missing from your current product. Can we put these dashboards in these reports? He had like 8 different pages with different dashboards. So my thought was like, well, we need to consolidate those into one page called reports or analytics. And so what I did with the LLM was I said, we need to build some dashboards, or at least one dashboard with different views. The client wanted lots of different dashboard pages, and in his screenshots, I'll send you, there's lots of screenshots, and I basically suggested some things we should do. Um, and then I said the prompt, look at the screenshots, review the whole transcript. I put the whole transcript of his call, his meeting, his Loom call. I put that all in here too. And I said, please review the screenshots, look at the transcript, come up with a plan for what you think we should do with this this dashboard or this dashboard problem, right? So I put all this in. This is the prompt. Put that into the LLM. This is some examples of the screenshots that I sent it as well. I basically took his call that he sent me, the Loom video, and took lots of screenshots and put it into this prompt here. Um, Now, the vibe coder would say, cool, this is going to solve my problem. Like, clients come back. This is a pretty smart way of doing it too. Like, I even had ChatGPT rewrite my prompt so that it kind of was clear to Claude, that was the AI that was doing this. And the vibe coder would think, great, it's going to fix this problem. It's going to create these charts. We're going to be rock and rolling. So I'll now show you what it actually ended up doing. So after sending that prompt, it went away and this is actually what it said after that. Um, and for those that know what I'm talking about, I used uh, Claude Sonnet 4.5 for this. So I didn't just use auto mode in Cursor or anything. Like, I used the smart model. Um, so it basically went ahead and it started doing an analysis. It said, "Yep, I agree. We should call this the analytics page. We should put it consolidate into one." So it listened to my UX idea there. It said, we're going to do one page. We're going to go ahead and create a filter panel design. We're going to put all the different drop downs, because it looked at the screenshot and it found all the different drop downs that he had in his screenshots. We're going to add all those as filters. We're going to go ahead and do, like, let's see, there's like date range selection. It went ahead and put all this. We're going to do some pie charts, blah, 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 blah. Created this plan. And again, this is the latest model. This is one of the at the time, this was the latest model. I think it was Sonnet 4.5. So pretty smart. Went ahead and created a whole plan, right? This is recent. This is the latest model. And you think, wow, this is going to nail it, right? It even suggested what charts to use, recharts. This is how we're going to blah, 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 right? Okay. So long freaking plan. All right. Let's keep going, let's keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay. So that's what the AI said. And then it's like, do you want to execute this? Of course, I say, yes, I do want you to execute it. Go ahead and burn up loads of tokens and spend like $50 doing this for me. And by the way, if anyone's asking what I'm talking about there, I use Cursor, which is it's the tool that does the coding for me. Cursor has plans you can pay, and it includes a certain amount of tokens. You can use auto mode, which is basically included in your plan. So you say you're paying 30, 40, $50 a month. That usually allows you to do a lot of things on auto mode. I pay 200 a month for the top plan, and that gives me a lot of tokens that I can use for more expensive models like Opus, which is very, very smart. And it gives you like 20 times the amount of tokens, amount of use you could get if you were just paying, out of pocket, if you like to use the American healthcare term. So I actually went over my $200, and I actually now I'm paying for the usage, and it's very expensive once you go over there. I think I spent $30 today just messing around with some things. Anyway, sorry, I just saw a question come up. How would you compare to 200 to max 200? I don't know actually. I only use Cursor right now. I might have to think about what to do, because, like I say, I keep going over my limit, and it gets very expensive. I saw a Reddit post actually. Someone spent $900 the other day on using Cursor because they were just using Opus a lot. And that's a whole different topic, by the way. How to optimize your token usage with LLMs. Anyway, going back onto topic here. So yeah, I said go ahead and execute the plan, and I want to show you what it came up with. So what I did actually was I reverted the repository for this client project back to when I had this happen, which was about a month ago, just so I could show you what it does. And I ran this prompt today, and this is what it came up with. And I ran it, and I want to show you exactly what it did. So this is exactly what it did. Okay. So we have a dashboard. Um, this is what it came up with. Um, it actually, the first thing it did, let me show you. Okay, well, I don't have a screenshot of it, but it actually had an error. It had a big old error message and said, a library was missing or something wasn't installed. So I had to diagnose that and fix that. And that was the first thing. Then it went ahead and created the reports page here. The sidebar was missing, the header was missing. So I had to fix that, because I knew that that was obviously broken. And then I had this. And to be honest, I actually spent about 5 minutes trying to fix this. This is some little data fetching error. I actually gave up because um, I just didn't want to burn any more tokens. I actually have more screenshots so I can show you where this was fixed. But I want to give you an example of what it came up with here. And you can see, if you guys are familiar with good user experience, good design, you'll probably agree with me. This is a lot going on here. We've got all these like filters all next to each other. If you click on the drop down for the date range, it's using a sort of out of the box date picker here, which is just clunky and ugly, right? Look at this. It's all broken, right? Um, the search boxes here don't really work properly. You can't click on these, and also it's showing all the results straight away, which is kind of weird. I wouldn't do that. There's just lots of things here. There's a reset button, which is kind of clunky. Um, the charts here, and I'll show you this in the screenshots. It's kind of created a lot of different charts. It's kind of hallucinated some stuff here, and it's just a big old mess, right? So what do you do as a vibe coder? You go, oh crap, what do I do now? You have to then use your user experience and design skills to create what the client wants here. So I'll go back to what I did after this. So, and this is when I actually worked on the project. I have screenshots from what I actually did for the customer, for the client. And these are the bad UX things that it did, and this is what I did to fix it. So, for example, let's pull this up here. So, this was, you can see this is what actually, when I did this a month ago, this is what it actually looked like. So it's very similar to what I just showed you just now. So we have this big old panel, and there's an overlap. There's like what do you call, a wrapping going on here, where the filters are down here when they should be up here. Same thing really, the date range. It's got this tab navigation here, which isn't great. So what I did was, rather than saying, do this, do this, do this, I said, what do you think about the UX for this page? And I think I used a different model. And that's another good little tip, is if you're having a model do one thing for you, switch to a different model, have it like go back and forth between the two. It's funny actually. Claude doesn't like OpenAI, doesn't like ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't like Claude, so you can have them like fight against each other. It's kind of fun. So he said, "What do you think about the UI UX for this? What improvements do you think could be made?" I know what I want, but I want to see what this comes up. And it actually had some really interesting thoughts. And I said, okay, I like this, don't like that. So I went ahead and took some of its suggestions in, but it still didn't quite get it right. For example, like this page here, it just listed out all the data points into these all the groupings and categories into like this list. Didn't like that. So I said, well, wouldn't it be better to add some charts rather than just dumping out into a table? I'm wondering if the overview page could look a little nicer by using more charts. And by the way, it's always good to talk to it like a conversation. Don't say things like do this, do this, do this, do this. It's usually better if you have a conversation with it. And again, ask questions like, what do you think about this? And then it will tell you what it thinks before you actually go ahead and just vibes out the whole work. Um, this is another example. Bad UX number two. This chart I didn't like, so I said, well, maybe it should be a vertical chart. And so there aren't many subjects as there are grades. Just trying to design the space better on this page, because there's a lot of wasted space here, right? It's kind of bad UX. So then it went ahead and did that, but it still didn't quite get it right. Look at this. It's kind of like that's been cut off. We have a lot of wasted space here. It's got these gray comparison bars like it came up with. Again, right. What's the vibe going to do in that situation, right? And again, the whole point of this is to show you guys that you can't just vibe stuff and just hope that it's going to work. You still need to apply your experience and your skills. So let's keep going. So bad UX number three. This is quite a simple one. I didn't like this. I thought it'd be cool if we had a gradient in there. So I just said, hey, can you make that as an area chart with a gradient? And then I keep going. This one here, this panel, if you guys have done vibe coding before, like use Lovable and stuff, I think you'll find this is quite common. It puts a panel in at the top, and then it has the controls here. And the way it works, it's looked at millions of websites and dashboards and UIs, and it says this is how it should be because this is based on all of its learning data. We should have a panel. We should have buttons here. We should have this here. Doesn't mean that's the best thing for that application. Doesn't mean it's the best thing for what you're trying to do. but it did. It put a panel in here, put the buttons in here. I don't like that, right? So I said, can you get rid of this panel? By the way, I I use a lot of typos. I don't care. I just scroll, just write out. Don't worry about typos. We don't need it. Can you put the export button next to the filters button, and so on? And I did it again with the reports. I mentioned that the date picker looked bad. Can you replace the date picker with a better date picker? Um, and also get rid of these tabs. These tabs look horrible when they're like along horizontally. It looked bad. And actually, in mobile view, when you went to mobile view, it actually looked terrible. It just you cut them off and just looked terrible. So I mentioned that too. I said it doesn't work well in mobile tablet view. So went ahead and did all that stuff. This probably took me, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 hours doing these iterations, going in, checking, coming back, checking it, doing iterations until I got the final product. So this wasn't vibe coded, right? This was using my experience, my skills to build something that was nice, the client liked, right? I would never have released it like this as it was. And I'll show you what I ended up with. I'll show you the platform. So that was what was vibed earlier. And then this is what the client ended up getting. They ended up getting a dashboard. This is actually in dark mode. I'm just kind of showing off a little bit because everyone loves dark mode. But yeah, you'll see the grading here. You'll see there's these nice little um, filters to go over the different time series. We got the charts in finally. They look nice, right? We also did some cool things like you can do some comparisons. So, oh, there's the date picker. So that looks nice. You can do things like last month or last quarter. You can do a specific school. For example, this one. Let me just put this back to this year or last quarter. Um, so yeah, you can choose your different schools and administrators. And another thing it didn't actually it did when I vibed it was it these little drop downs here. It was actually behind this popover, so it was hiding behind it. So I had to tell the LLM to make sure that the drop downs are in front. It was kind of like a Z index thing. So yeah, let me see if I can show you some more cool stuff on here. Um, yeah, so the comparison charts, export. So I put a little export menu here. All this stuff is the things that I came up with, making sure the buttons are over here. Oh, and then remember earlier we saw we saw these tabs along here. Well, that actually ended up being in this like little drop down or pop over here. So yeah, and then we have the pie charts that I wanted, um, various other distribution charts and ratings. And then in the feedback, I don't think I have a screenshot of this, but when it vibed it, it was all this text was too big. There was no view button, so you couldn't actually click on the details. And now I had to have it create a modal to show the details in that particular row. So yeah, you'll see that like there was a lot of work that went into this. This was not vibed. There's no way the LLM would be able to do this um, just by a prompt. You have to go in and you have to iterate. So kind of that's really the main takeaway for this talk. Really, is that um, we as developers, um, designers, user experience, anything we do when with product building, uh, all the work we've put into learning, all the experience we've gained, that isn't going to get replaced by AI. We're still very much needed, and that ain't going away. So that's really the main takeaway here. Um, like vibe coding is going to be here to stay, but what we need to make sure we explain to people is that um, AI is an assistant. AI is an assistant to what we're doing. Um, I like to think instead of vibe coding, I want to think of the role as um, AI assisted product builder. That's what I like to think of myself as, or AI driven product builder. For you guys, it might be an AI assisted developer, or you're using AI as a companion. And then what you don't want to do is get out of the director seat. You're still the director. You have a crew working for you, but you're still sitting in that director seat, and that's important with this whole thing. So with that, I'm just going to pass it off. I don't really like talking like this, so I think, as I said at the beginning, let's make it a discussion. You guys go in and let me know what your thoughts are, what your experience is. If you've got any questions, that might be a good idea at this point, CJ, if you want to just share that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. That was really cool, and it's turned out really beautiful compared to how it started. So, and +1 for dark mode. So,
Oh, yeah.
thank you for that, for sharing. And then if anyone wants to jump in with any questions, I'll start off. Just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll start a line here. First, I'll ask the question. I know I've been first of all, everyone should follow Stu. You have a really good social presence, as well as you have a really good podcast that you just started.
Yeah. I just
Um,
Yeah, if you follow me at Stu-Green, we did actually just put out a podcast with my coworker Philip. Some of you guys might know. And we call it rambling about AI because every Friday we just ramble about AI. And I prefer this format because it's kind of more of a back and forth conversation thing. We've talked about three different topics, and we're going to be talking about some other stuff as well this week and so on. So please
yes.
follow.
And I highly recommend my favorite episode is the rise of the AX designer, so agent experience. So that was really, really fun. And anyone and you mentioned in the show, someone made a comment that the show was too long. So whoever said that is crazy. It's go as long as you want because that's what podcasts are for. So don't take that too much to heart. But I'll ask the question, then I'll pass it off to Scott, who's in line. Um, I know you've been experimenting with OpenClaw, aka Moltbot, aka ClaudeBot. I know you built a scraper for job boards as an experiment. Kind of what's your takeaway from that, kind of bleeding edge technology, and how does that kind of apply to this AI driven product building discipline?
Yeah, I mean, well, we actually talked about that in Should I Trust My AI with My Personal Data? We talked about Clawbot and Maltbot. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but listen to the end, and Philip has a really good takeaway on his opinion, and I agree with him on it. So I won't spoil it. But yeah, my experience with it, I installed it last week, and I built a job tracking tool um, that basically uses the agent goes through, looks on job boards, finds jobs, sends them to you based on your persona, what you're looking for, puts them in the job tracker. And it also creates materials for like creating cover letters, resumes, finds the person that is actually hiring and gets their name, does all that stuff for you. It's pretty cool. It was expensive though. That's the problem. And again, like I mentioned in the talk, tokens are expensive. So anyone that's saying, "Oh yeah, I built this whole code, I rebuilt, I know, a one-shotted YouTube in like 2 minutes," like it costs a lot of money to do these tokens. And Claudebot was expensive. I want to say I spent like $100. Yeah, I think I did 3 days, and it was like $30 a day in tokens, and it kept burning through them. And I was running it from my phone too, so because you can use WhatsApp to talk to it. So I was away, and I was like, the agent was giving me job reports, and I think it was running on the Heartbeat, and the Heartbeat was running every, let's say, few minute or something, and it was burning tokens every time. So that was a dumb thing. And I think I had the model set to like Sonnet or something instead of Haiku, which is cheap. So yeah, my response to what you asked is it's expensive, and it's also not. It's scary. Don't trust it.
Yes.
What's the podcast?
Yes, I'll check that out. That is the one episode I did not see. I saw the other two. Scott, go ahead and your floor is yours.
Yeah, no, it's more commentary than it is question. I also in the Jacksonville area working at an agency. And honestly just started using Claude Max after using Cursor for a little over a year. I was convinced enough that we have now allocated $200 a month for the Claude Max 20x subscription. I've found that good. I am curious to know how the tokens go, but anyhow, my point, just my personal speaking, I used Cursor for very heavily for 6 to 8 months. I felt that its context window was very limited. You had to be very short and simple with a lot of the things. Eh, I personally thought it had a very poor attempt with doing UI elements or like it. You get the same general AI slop elements regardless of the model that you would throw at it. Now, at the time, I bought like the annual, you pay like $200 up front and they gave you kind of like their prorated plan from like October or September. But recently there's a big conference called Agency Builders, where a bunch of agency owners go, they talk tech. And with Claude Max, I mean, I found I can give it long, exhausting prompts, let it run for 2, 3 hours, and I get something that's almost perfect. One of my personal things that I've had to learn from it though is making sure that you give it the right context files like MDs, but like make sure you use Playwright for visual changes. Make sure you use these technologies. A lot for me. We started our Q1 our basically forecasting Q1, Q2, Q3 of product development, and this was with the knowledge of having Cursor within our toolkit with the new Claude Code and some of the things I've been learning over the past month. We've taken Q3 goals and we're smashing them into Q1 now. Like that to me, it's my personal like it's crazy to be here. And just happy to be a part of the experience. Now that we're moving a lot faster, and having to learn a lot faster of like CI. I know CI/CD, but now we have to really employ really good best practices, especially when we have a lot of these things hit in production from concept to delivery in like 7 days.
Let's go. Sure. We had another raised hand.
Yes. Thanks, Ria.
Yes, that's me. So I kind of have like maybe it is a question for most people in the group who probably are software engineers or developers or just in the tech field being affected by AI. I've noticed um, if you're looking for work, they always say you have to have AI experience as well. So um, in the last year and a half, they've included that in the job description. And my frustration with that is with my like 8+ years of work with multiple companies of various sizes. I don't know what that looks like in the job actively, and I like having an idea of what that is. At my last job, all we did was train their models. We didn't actually use it for anything useful. They threw out every project that they included AI in. Um, and since since I got laid off at the big company, I've just been doing small things where if I use AI, I'm frustrated with whatever code it gives me, and I'm always cleaning it up. And I keep asking people with work, like who have actual like jobs with actual companies, if they use AI. And I think the common theme I keep hearing is they have somebody on their team who is generating so much nasty code and they have so much experience that they're just in there cleaning up every time they get a PR. So that's my question is if you're here with a company who's like you need to be a software engineer with AI experience and then you get the job interview and you're like in the interview show me how you code with AI. Are we just taking code and like what does that look like? Are we cleaning it up? What are the steps?
That's a great question. Stu, how do you want to take a stab at that?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm coming at it from a UX UI design perspective, so I can't really answer that from an engineering perspective. Someone else might have to answer that one. But I've heard from experience that yeah, there's a lot of cleanup going on, and I think people that have been in the industry for as long as I have and are engineers, they're kind of jaded because they're just like, what the hell? Like people coming in and yeah, doing PRs and breaking things. Um, yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any comments on that one, I couldn't comment really, but.
Yeah, I would be curious. Anyone who is an actual software developer, I'd love to hear that. But let's see, Marcus Aurelius mostly use it for unit tests and regex. Yeah, so I would say as a kind of lightheartedly, AI isn't necessarily going to take away jobs. It's also going to create a lot of jobs, specifically on the QA and security side, to mess with all these vibe coded and AI product driven built applications. So definitely like a market for that. What I would say also is kind of what Stu has mentioned a lot is AI not necessarily replacing humans, but amplifying humans. And so if like finding that workflow to be that like that 10x developer to really to help you with a lot of the low level, maybe junior dev, um, functionalities or processes that you're trying to, trying to help build out things. And I think like the software developer, a lot of like even people like Andre Karpathy and others like, some of the best software developers in the world, um, are able to, are basically sounding the alarm, saying, especially with these newest models and Claude Code and things like that, saying like, that's able to do things in kind of like very like humbling. And so, um, I would say that it's the role of the software developer is kind of like being the software architect, that's like a superpower to really understand like how software works, how to be able um, to apply these models, and keep in mind they keep getting better and better. I mean, it's like every week it seems that there's this new release, and it's you're able to do amazing things, and it's rapidly progressing. I mean, compared to like a year ago today to how it is now, it's night and day. And so, it's not really answering your question, but I mean, and it's hard to say because the job search altogether, and even Stu will, can probably attest to this. It's kind of a broken process. You just built an app, to basically scrape job postings, but it's gotten so bad now that it's like, and I've worked in the talent acquisition field where we would post like a product manager role and we'd have like within a 24 hours, 1,200 applicants.
Mhm.
And there is also a lot of bots that are applying on behalf of people. And so it's getting like super easy to apply. They're cutting talent acquisition, in companies. And so you have like a couple talent acquisition people combing through thousands of resumes, and it's just really a broken system. So, um, it's a tough situation, but what I would say is like just to the main thing is to learn about AI is to just tinker, is to just try different applications and things like that. But I don't know, Stu, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I actually have a few thoughts on this like whole thing because like you just said there, like bots are coming in, they're straight away applying. People are used to if they put a job posting out, they now expect to get loads of bots coming back. It's just the expectance thing. They expect it now. So it's kind of like this is the norm now. And it's a bit like content you read. Content that gets posted and you read it, you're like, oh, is this AI? It's probably AI. So it's kind of like you just have to accept that it's it's all gonna be AI generated stuff and slop if you want. But this is kind of what I'm saying in this if there's nothing, if the only thing you take away from this whole talk or whatever we want to call it, it's just AI isn't going to replace us because we have something that AI cannot replace, and that's human empathy and human experience and being able to relate to other humans, right? Like even now, I'm struggling because I can't see you guys in a room. I can't. All I see is a screen, right? If we were in a room together, I'd be able to have eye contact with you, and it would be a completely different experience. We'd be engaging with each other. There's something about being in a room with someone. Um, and another great example is today I had lunch with someone who's in the HVAC industry, and kind of old school, right? It's and or construction, anything like that. And how do they find business? How do they talk? They have lunch together. They go to a room. They go to a business meeting. They shake hands. They give each other paper business cards. That's how they do business. That's how they get jobs. That's how they do everything, right? It's old school, right? I'm almost thinking that there's going to be a revolution where we kind of go back to that. And I've been doing that myself. I said to him today, I was like, how do I find new clients? How do I find people that need products building for them? I'm like, I just need to get in front of it, go into a breakfast meeting with people that are trying to work on a new product and actually shake their hand and say, hey, this is what I do. So it's almost like we're going back to old school because that works. It works, but sending out emails to these people and saying, hey, I'm a product builder. Can I work for you? Can I work? And they're just going to be like, nah, nah, nah. I don't want to deal with that, right? You get in front of them, you have lunch, you shake their hand. It's a completely different experience. So, as I said, AI helps us. It's assisting us, but we as humans should just be human and do whatever it is that we were doing in our jobs that was human. That makes sense. For me, it was having understanding customers, having empathy, being able to imagine in my head what they wanted, and then being able to produce that because I can understand we have a connection. I understand what they're trying to build, right? The AI can't do that. It can guess, it can hypothesize, it can synthesize and hallucinate, but it's never really going to be able to replace us when it comes to human connection. I hope that makes sense. That's like, that's the only thing that gets taken away from this then.
Yeah, and good luck in your search. And I know it's a crazy market. So much going on. But I would say, we're definitely in a crazy time, and AI is only as good as the person prompting it. And so it's like it's there's an iterative process. And actually, that would be a good question for you, Stu. Like, what you've probably done countless amounts of prompts. You've seen stuff crash and burn and eat tokens, but you've also like have actually uh, had really good returns, and to have that iterative process of just that follow up kind of chain of thought, prompting type of stuff. And then, but also you also have a kind of a moving goalpost because different models react differently to different prompts. But kind of as of late, like what are some good like high level advice for prompting to get like the best bang for your buck or bang for your prompt?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great question. And I kind of touched on this right at the beginning of the talk was that like you can just have one like I see I'll try and find the slide, but basically you can say, hey, build me an e-commerce site for so and so, and then it's going to go, okay, sure, and it's going to hallucinate a ton of stuff. Or you can be really specific and have a PRD, right, a product requirements document, which is got tons and tons of like I showed you earlier that this prompt, I mean, it's massive, right? It created this massive, it's essentially a prompt. This is a plan, right? It created this massive long prompt. And you could have written this yourself and spent like days writing all this stuff. And it still didn't get it right. So like you can either do the hallucinated one line prompt or you can do the full PID. And either way, it still doesn't get it right. So like I said at the beginning of the talk, what do? You have to iterate. You have to spend time iterating, going through and going back to it again and again and again and making sure that it is doing what you want it to do because it's what you have in your mind, right? So you have to iterate. I don't really see there's any other way around it. But working with the AI, um, and that's another topic or another thought is like the agentic thing. Talking about agents and sub agents. Like the agent goes away and says, "Hey, I want to build an e-commerce site for whatever." The agent goes, "Okay, sure. What do you want it to have? What do you want the front end to look like? Oh, I want it to look like this. Do you want an iPhone app? Yes, I want an iPhone app." You could have the agent talking to each other, and then essentially they're going to create like a product, right? But even after all that, it might not be what the human wants, right? So unless you're involved in the process every step of the way, then you're not going to be able to build a product that ultimately the client wants, right? Does that make any sense? That's a long answer, but
No, no, I mean, it does. It does. Have you made use of like markdown files in
mm,
like your workflow? Like how are you best utilizing that?
yeah, I think was it Scott mentioned that earlier? Yeah, oh, absolutely. Markdown files. It's like it's funny, isn't it? How we've kind of gone back to everything's just gone back to Markdown files.
Yeah.
Like the whole world is now run on Markdown files. Yeah. So essentially, what you're doing, what you saw earlier in that prompt, I mean, that can become a Markdown file as your plan. And when you use Cursor and you go to plan mode, it creates a Markdown file and then it runs off that Markdown file. The way I've been working recently, and this is kind of pretty cool, little inside insider secret type thing, is that I smiling there. Um, what I've been doing, and this is actually Philip, who's on that podcast. He's really smart at this kind of stuff. Is yeah, before you do any code, everything is just markdown file after markdown file after markdown file, and you're almost like creating a brain for the project. So you could have like you got your README file, which is like basic. What is this product about? What is this application about? And then you've got things like the database markdown file. And then you have specs, and rather than one big spec file, you might have specs for every single aspect of the application. So you have loads of markdown files. Then you might have a security markdown file, and then you have the AI work on each individual thing, and then you can run the whole thing back to the LLM, like say using GPT, for example, Codex, right? Have a look at my project. Read all the README files. What do you think? Does this make sense? Check. What does it is there any duplications or inconsistencies? And that was actually Philip's idea. It was like, have the LLM read the whole project and look for inconsistencies. And guess what? It found inconsistencies. It said, oh, you missed, your security's not good, or you've got like multiple specs going on here. Your database isn't defined, or whatever it could be. You've got multiple authentication layers going on here, blah, blah, blah. And then you send it back to the LLM that wrote the original spec, Claude or something, Sonnet or whatever. And then it's funny because then Claude will be like, huh, you're absolutely right. Or good catch, as the other one. And then it'll be like, I agree with this point. I agree with this point. I don't think this is true because, I deliberately built it like that. You're like, okay, fine. So we'll go ahead and implement the fixes that GPT came up with, send it back to GPT, have it look again in a new conversation without any context originally, have it look at it again. It'll be like, yeah, this is a tight project. Okay, cool. Now let's try Gemini. Gemini finds all the other things that Codex didn't find, right? So that's what I've been doing. And then you end up with like a solid foundation of markdown files before you've even touched a line, you even created a line of code. And then you can say, have at it, boom, go. And then it'll start coding everything. And yeah, I did that and it took like about half an hour of coding, which is great, right?
Yeah.
Built it to spec, or should have done. And that's when the senior engineer comes in and says, what the hell have you built here? This is terrible. What are you doing?
I'm curious from a lot of the things that you've done. What kind of tests? What kind of build processes? Like, it's one thing to be like dugga code, zoom, look at a quick PR, approve, merge, strip it off to production. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been starting to look at a lot more automated testing, visual testing, just a lot of those kind of things with like GitHub Actions and whatnot. Just as we start shooting things out faster and faster and faster,
Yeah.
do you have a particular process or workflow or tool set that you're using to kind of regulate the AI, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, you touched on unit tests, I think earlier. Having it create like Jest test suite and all that kind of stuff, like testing all the endpoints. That's kind of basic CRUD testing, right? So you kind of need to do that anyway. So yeah, whenever you're doing the markdown file, you can say create a whole test suite too, so that all the endpoints work and everything else. But what you're talking about maybe more is like maybe user experience testing, like making sure that you can log in, you can authenticate, you can actually access things. And is that
Right. Yeah, everything, soup to
Yeah.
nuts. I mean, because there have been times where like I'll have it work for like an hour doing tons of unit tests and it completely forgot about one entire module of our platform.
Yeah.
And of course, it's one of our modules that I least frequent.
Mhm.
And so I do a big 2.0 overhaul update, basically pre-Claude and post-Claude UI from everything that I previously hand coded to, Claude code, and it looks fantastic. And then like 3 days later, I get a client email. I'm like, hey, this thing's broken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I tested everything except for that one module, which no one uses except for her. And
Yeah.
of course, Claude forgot about it. Well, no, I take that. Claude said it tested it, and then it wrote it, it tested it, everything passed, we're all good. Even at one point, I had it like make an expansive playwright test of everything, let it run, found multiple failures, and prompted it to go ahead and self-correct all of them.
Yeah.
Did this like 3 or 4 evolutions, and it still somehow made it through. So
Right. I think what you touched on there is just like the classic, like you could hire a team of a team, an offshore team to do your testing for you, and they do it all, and they say, "Yep, everything passed, tested." Then you send it to the client, and they say it's broken. So it's kind of like it's just the classic. It's the same, it's the classic problem of just like, yeah, when you release a product, there's going to be bugs, things are going to be broken. So almost like AI, it's never going to, just because you got AI doesn't mean that's. So yeah, really, it's just one of those things. Like, there are going to be bugs, there are going to be issues, and we can test as much as we want, but there's still going to be bugs. It's just one of those inevitable things. But I will say another thing I'll say though is that talking about QA, the company I used to work for had a whole QA team in India that would just do what you just talked about. Go through all the different modules, go through all the different things, test, click this, click that. And they do a whole video of it, and then you send it back to the dev team, and they'd be like, "Cool, ship it," right? But when I was messing around with some things, doing now you can actually have the in-browser testing, right? I think there was a thing called Browser Base that came out a while ago, and I was using that because it can do that whole thing where it goes through and tests and clicks. But now with Cursor, you can actually do it in the browser in Cursor. So that kind of just wiped out a whole SaaS company right there. But yeah, I noticed that it tries to test things by clicking and things, but it doesn't work. Like, and it takes a lot of time to go from one form field to the other, and it's pretty slow. So it's kind of like everyone going on about how QA firms have been wiped out because of AI. It's not true. It's still actually better just to hire someone or do it yourself. Click, 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 click. Oh, I can't log in. Um, you know. So yeah, I don't know if that's a very good answer, but yeah.
It's not really an answer. I think we're all just like cool. It's honestly good. Well, no, that is a good answer. I take that back. I apologize. It's good to know that we're all sharing the same frustrations. It's like I like so I'm the only developer at where I work. So I basically get free reign to do as I please. And I've been doing software. I've been doing websites since 2006, full time for 10 years. Like I like to know what I'm doing. I've worked with a lot of senior talent before I came here.
Yeah.
And it's like ever since like Claude and everything, I thought things were on the bleeding edge with Cursor. Then I got into Claude and all these like more and more and more. I feel like I'm a pioneer, and I'm like, am I doing the right thing, or is everyone else just as confused as I am?
Yeah, they are. We all are.
Yeah, everyone's kind of finding their way.
Yeah.
Um, I, I don't know. Have you had it like any luck, either Scott or you or Stu, doing like simulated like user testing using like personas? I actually started like just prototyping doing some mock-ups and some prototyping, some ideas, and then I'd actually would go in like ChatGPT and like create a like persona and actually like simulate them testing it and then making recommendations, taking those recommendations and iterating and creating a new version. Like, and then also kind of plays into Stu your talk about podcast about agent experience. So it's like almost like having those agents be like your target audience users, and instead of it like accessing a website or an app like as an agent, is actually like assuming that persona and then providing that feedback for you to iterate upon. Like, have you done anything like that, or is that have you had any luck with something like that?
You're talking about sort of like an interacting with a website or a web application. Is that what you?
Yeah, so essentially like kind of simulating user testing, but the user testing is actually the AI testing its own prototype, or
Yeah.
or another AI testing its prototype.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. So it's something that I just discovered about this. There are two common. So if people don't know, I guess I casually dropped the name, but it's because I've been finally working with it. So there are JavaScript libraries. A common one's called Playwright. It is a tool that basically gives it. You can install it as an MCP agent. It gives your AI eyeballs effectively. And as I'm prompting it to make a development, I'll incorporate like, hey, here's the link to the URL. And it's crazy having my web browser pop up, have the AI. I say, I have it in the root directory. I then, have a admin account, password root, it's running locally. I'm like, here prompting it everything where something is, like if I'm developing a WordPress widget, it will literally open it up and I can see it clicking around. And with Playwright, it basically you can do Playwright tests to have it visually confirm things. Um, it's for testing and DevOps, but you can also give it vision for development too. Now that code can be doing that. And that will allow it to have access to the web browser. So I've been using that extensively, especially when you have visual bugs. I don't want to copy and paste an error message. I say, go to this page, you'll see an error message, continue to fix the bugs until you can fully create something successfully. Don't come back till you do. And that thing will run and it will hum for an hour and it will get it. Additionally, when you're doing mobile development, you can actually do the same thing using a service called Maestro. And I've been able, I literally went from a concept to a functional full backend SaaS and mobile app within just one business day. And a part of it, I had the Claude code in a root directory that had both the React Native app in there, along with a Laravel SaaS app. And basically, hey, I need to fix a login form. Go ahead and go in there, and that it spun up the admin, it spun up the uh, simulator, updated the APIs, and it literally worked within itself. So yes, it basically is giving it vision.
Nice, nice. That's what it's all about. Is comparing like notes, finding tools. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? That's awesome. So I've definitely just screenshotted those and to investigate further. All right, Lexria, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Have you guys done any of your stuff inside of containers, like with like a dev container? Because you guys mentioned the Moltbot, and I started reading about the security problems with that. And then now you're talking about letting something automated just run stuff on your computer. It just makes me a little nervous. So, have you thought about containerizing any of this stuff while it's running?
That's why there's a big rush on people buying Mac Minis. Is them
Yeah.
putting OpenClaw or
Yep.
OpenClaw, that's the latest name, uh, uh, on their computer, so they don't have access to their banking information or any of their personal files or browsing history. So like there's like people are having those kind of firewalls, so to speak. But Stu, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot you can do really if you just have a siloed Mac Mini without any of your information. Like you can't log into anything or anything. So it's kind of like you're going to end up giving it stuff on you ultimately, because otherwise, what use is it really? So, but yeah, I mean, you can definitely do that with a Mac Mini, or you can just get Docker or something like that, and you can create like a siloed environment using Docker or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Virtual machines, I mean, like, bring back VMware and things like that. Just throw something in there. Have like kind of a vanilla like environment.
I would again just have you listen to the podcast, especially what Philip says at the end. I mean, I'll spoil it for you. Basically, he says, "Don't do it. Don't use them. We're not ready," is what he's saying. Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, don't bother with the podcast. Just don't do it. But yeah, he
Uh,
just says we're just not there yet. We're not ready. It's too dangerous right now. I mean,
Wait until Claude or Anthropic has their own like, safer version of ClaudeBot or OpenClaw and yeah, and then talk about agent experience. I don't know, have you checked out Moltbook, the social media site for agents?
it's just a it's a great way to have just give loads of money to Anthropic and OpenAI, right?
All the tokens you see, all all the writings from all the agents like arguing with each other, and it's just like look at all the tokens it's bringing in for those labs.
Yeah, I looked at some of the comments. They're just like, "Oh, you're absolutely right," and then it's just like back and forth with this dumb like people are probably using cheap models too, like Haiku and GPT Mini, and it's just like just just trash. It's like what's the point? You're wasting money.
I was gonna ask that. You mentioned doing some experimentation and burning through tokens. Have you experimented with any like open models, even things like Google's Gemma or like Mistral has stuff like from France and like other like there and like obviously China has like Kimi and like even like DeepSeek is making a comeback. So like have you like had any luck with the like on system AI,
Yeah,
models to be able to kind of skirt the whole token,
yeah,
token churning.
yeah. I did actually. So one of my products that I was working on. I think it might have been this one actually. When you click on play, it actually uses my voice. I don't know if you can hear this, but it actually. Let me see if I can find a slide where I've got my voice on this one. Um, just refresh this real quick. I don't know if you can hear my voice because it. Hear that? Hear that?
So so Google Meet has a really good AI filtering for background noise, and so that's an instance where the AI is actually filtering your background
Yeah.
noise.
Okay. Well, anyway, this actually uses my voice, and I cloned my own voice using 11 Labs.
Nice.
Um, and uh, and it actually sounds like me. It's pretty cool. So it reads the transcript, which is the original transcript I put into this thing, and it reads it out, and it sounds like me. It's crazy, right? Um, but with 11 Labs, again, it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
So I spent like $100 on the subscription, and then I was already hitting my max limits. And dude, this was just like my own personal project. This isn't even like a commercial thing. I was like, damn, it's expensive. So I started researching what would it take to actually build my own uh, text to speech service. And so I basically looked into it, and I ended up spinning up my own uh, LLM using can't remember it was the Facebook.
Llama.
Thank you, Llama. So I spun that up, and I used some open source kind of text to speech services, and I cloned my voice. I didn't spend long on it. I didn't. I think I spent like 10 minutes putting my sampled voice into it, and it did a pretty good job. And it was obviously free. It was the cost of the GPU because I rented the GPUs from something pod runpod.io, I think it was. Really cool service, by the way, if you wanna, like, mess around with open, like you say, Llama or something like that. I think I spent, like, $5 because I had it running because it's by the hour, and I think I just had it running all day, and I think I spent $5. Um, and I was like, "Man, if I was gonna do this for a client or if I was gonna have this as more of a SaaS product of my own, I would probably, yeah, spin up my own, um, server for it and run my own GPUs." But, yeah, that was my experience. I don't know if anyone else has got any experiences like Scott might you wanna share.
Thanks, Ria.
Okay, last question. Since you've been doing this for a while, is it getting cheaper like they said it would? They said it would get cheaper. Is it getting more expensive? The
More
compute?
gonna get more. I mean, they're gonna charge more for they're gonna charge us more. It's already expensive. Right now, we're barely paying anything, what, $20 a month, these subscriptions? They're running loss leaders. They're running loss leaders, right? So they're losing tons and tons of money, and one day it's gonna hit us in the face. We're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh." I don't know. CJ, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I would say the leading edge models cost a lot. And however, every time a new model comes out, the older models, if they're not retired or sunsetted, they become cheaper. And so you're I've noticed in like some of the things that I'm doing that it doesn't necessarily require the leading edge models like for reasoning and inference time and all that stuff that you're able to get really capable models like for decent prices but and then even like Claude Anthropic just released Claude um Opus 4.6. Apparently there was a rumor that they were going to release Claude Sonnet 5, but because they decided at the last minute to change it to Claude Opus 4.6 because that allowed them to charge more money. So, and talk about the Stu's exactly right. These companies,
The business.
their burn rate is like insane. Is like billions of dollars a year, like $1 billion a month or something crazy. They're talking about they can't spin up data centers fast enough. GPUs, like they can't spin up or create them fast enough. They're talking about like putting like data centers in space. Like it's getting crazy. Like we are like living in crazy times. And then even it's kind of trickling down to like, the consumer. So like you want to buy like a PC or buy like a graphics card, like that's the market. It's like first of all, it's like hard to find. And then secondly, like the market's just gone crazy. So it's a weird time, but there still is like some semblance of Moore's law, and so like you see like these sort of exponential curves of like the models getting better, and there's like an acceleration effect. Um, but you also have to kind of like keep things in perspective to say like models like 1 to 2 years ago are very very capable, and you're able to get a lot out of them um, depending on the application. And then there's also like things that you can do like having a router and to be able to say like, okay, for the most strenuous like tasks that you're trying to achieve, like you may require thinking and inference time and things like that. But then for some basic tasks, you should be able to, get that sort of that fast model and to be able to minimize your token usage. But the Stu is right. I mean, like that's a whole other subject for like token optimization and like managing your costs.
Yeah, and I would say subscribe to our podcast because we're going to talk about this on Friday. Philip and I were chatting yesterday. We were like, what are we going to talk about on Friday? And I was like, why don't we talk about the cost of AI, the cost of tokens, like how these companies are losing so much money and like that's ultimately is going to hit us at some point, and right now it's almost like a good time to just mess around because it can be cheap. Like you just said, like if you use auto mode in Cursor, it's going to use whatever model is cheapest for Cursor because they're a company, right? They're going to find the most cost-effective model, but they are better. So even auto mode now is pretty good. I still wouldn't trust it with any like of my projects because it just ends up creating bugs and it takes a waste of time. But but yeah, it is expensive. Like um, I probably spent like for $20 or $30 today just messing around, fixing some of these bugs in this app and creating this prompt to do this. I probably spent like $20 because I'm already over my $200
Yeah.
because I use Opus and I use Sonnet. Those are expensive models, but right now they're still probably of good value based on what you can do.
Yes.
And another comment or thought is that, and we'll probably talk about this on Friday, is like all these companies like Lovable and Replit, and they're all basing their whole business plan on the fact that they're getting subsidized cheap tokens from these providers like Anthropic, and their whole business is based on this, right? So like, what if things change and then suddenly Anthropic go, all right, well look, now we're going to start releasing a better pricing model. They're screwed, right? And I mean, Lovable probably aren't profitable either because they're only charging $20, $30 a month. Think about how much it costs them through all these vibe coding apps, and then they're hosting them too. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that on Friday. I think it'll be a really interesting conversation.
Looking forward to it. Everyone should subscribe. It's a really good pod. It's actually, I'm not even like saying this just to say it, but it's one of my favorite new podcasts out there, and it's no pressure, but I mean it's like you're a fly on the wall with like a really good conversation between like someone who's like both people are very very well versed in AI, but you have someone that's like a designer background and product builder background, and then someone who's like an entrepreneur and also like data background. So it's like a really interesting perspectives, and you just kind of like sit back and just listen. It's really really good. All right, we're coming up on time. I really appreciate Stu your putting your time in this. I do have a question for you, like from your product design and your product background, like how are you like employing your product development processes and like having that as like a superpower to be able to like kind of go through the whole product development life cycle, from discovery, through like prototyping, through like development, and then like testing and iteration. Like how are you employing like those skills like as a human that you've accumulated over the years to like kind of help like give you that edge in the chaos and the noise that's out there?
Yeah, being a human definitely helps. On my, you have to put on your on your resume these days. I'm human. Yeah. Um, that's a big question, man. Like that's a topic, like a whole different talk. I mean, like, I don't know really how to answer that. I mean, it's the same, right? It hasn't changed. And I think that's what I'm saying, like, in the talk is just like, do the same thing you did before, just use AI to help you, It's assisted, it's an assistance. So yeah, it hasn't changed. You still want to talk to a client, you still want to get the requirements, you still build the DB, the foundation, the architecture, you still do the front end, and then you do the tests, and then you do the handoff, right? It hasn't changed. It's just that everything's being done essentially more quicker,
Yeah.
really, and essentially cheaper. Like you can do a project now for let's say 10, 15, 20K that would have cost like, 100K and like 8 months, 9 months, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But now you can pass those savings on to your clients, um, and get stuff out the door quicker, really. As long as you're still doing it the way you did it before and you're applying the same, uh, methodologies you did before, if that's the right word. But yeah, that's a big question.
And not to put you on the spot, that could definitely be its own talk. There's a call out. Somebody asked the podcast title. It's called "Rambling About AI." It's on Stu.
Is that a British phrase? Rambling? Because I was talking to someone about that. I was like, is rambling a British thing?
No, I mean, although one of my favorite like references to rambling is Led Zeppelin, "Ramble On." They are a British band, but they rambling is definitely
Okay.
I think it's very American. We're very under well versed in that uh
Rambling.
yeah
It's rambling.
language. Um All right. Was anyone else have a question as we wrap up, or have any comments? Because this has been like a exciting conversation. Allman Brothers, Rambling Man. There you go.
What?
So that's very American.
It is.
Yeah, Allman Brothers. But ramble on. Hop to break out my Led Zeppelin playlist. That's been a minute. So, so
If you're in Jacksonville, next Thursday we have the Startup Jacks event every third Thursday. So
yes, this is a good opportunity. So, first, Stu and Philip, they run. If you're in Jacksonville, it's a really good group called Startup Jacks. They've been around forever, and just the coolest people show up. Are you still having it at Posting House?
yeah.
So Posting House in San Marco, great place. It's anybody's entrepreneur interested in software development or just tinkering. It's a really good place to be and meet really interesting people. Um, and it's just the vibe is great, and the venue is awesome. Vibe, pun intended. And then Stu, talk about do your plug your company.
Oh, Aology? Yeah. Aology, no one knows how to pronounce it. I should have given it
Theology.
Aology. Yeah. So basically, we're just a development agency, really. We build products for people using our experience. It's Philip and I. Um, we have an office in downtown in Jacksonville, and yeah, we build prototypes specifically and MVPs for startups, founders. We work with founders. So if you've got an idea you want to build, that's kind of where we fit in. But the idea is to build something that's scalable with a good foundation, so it's not just a throwaway project. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. And I must say, there's never a better time to be an entrepreneur, especially if you don't have a software development background, to go from idea to prototype to production than now. And Jax, Startup Jax is an awesome place, and definitely check out Aology. Both Stu and Philip are really smart people. They're very like connected, and I highly recommend if anyone has any projects that you're interested in, just reach out to Stu, because definitely would get really good insight and some ideas. So yeah, thanks Stu so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. Well, anyways, everyone have a great night. Thanks for making it out here. If anyone, if I appreciate if anyone likes this, reach out or give feedback on Meetup. It definitely helps people find the group, and definitely subscribe to everything social for Stu. He's on LinkedIn. He's on X. He's got his YouTube channel with his podcasts. It's really really good, and you see, I mean, Stu posts a lot, and it's like all like really gold content. So keep up the great work, Stu.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.